I'm always focused on the long game. I think these days, a lot of people want Insta results. They want to be Instagram famous. They want to have like $1 billion business overnight. It was bartending, it was waiting tables, it was like being a personal assistant, cleaning people's toilets, whatever I needed to do in order to pay my rent, put food on the table and actually continue to grow the business. All this conventional wisdom was like, if you're gonna be a success, you have to narrow down, pick one thing, specialize in it, and be the best at that thing, and maybe in like 10 or 20 years, you're gonna be awesome. And every time I tried to follow that conventional wisdom that told me to pick one thing, I felt like I was cutting off a limb.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 for my top 10, top 10, 9 This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to focus on the long game, try everything, and start small with Marie Forleo and my take on her top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Focus on the long game.
I'm always focused on the long game. I think these days, a lot of people want Insta results. They want to be Instagram famous. They want to have like $1 billion business overnight. And if you're just starting out, you've never run a business, you've never created content, you've never sold, marketed, built a team, done any of these things before, to expect instant results, it's immature. It's unrealistic. You're never going to get there. And some of the people I admire most in the world, no matter what their craft is, dude, they're in it for the long game. They're not sitting around going like, why can't I get higher conversions by tomorrow? It's like, that's not how this works, man. And if you're looking for that type of result, it's just like, I'm not interested in hanging with those kind of people. I think we get better over time. I think you have to really be patient. I think people have to understand, especially when it comes to any so-called like glamorous type career or people, maybe things that people perceive are glamorous, whether it's something like what you and I do, an athlete, an entertainer. Do you know what 90% of the work is? Grunt work. That's what it is. It's unglamorous. Sometimes people are like, I want to see what you do more. I'm like, you want to see what I do more? I'm sitting with a messy bun in my sweatpants, sometimes not showering for 3 goddamn days because I'm hammering shit out. That's what I do. I love it. But if you're not willing to put in that kind of work, you're not going to get the outcomes on the other side.
Rule number 2, make sacrifices.
I worked so hard to get my business off the ground, and I was often working 7 days a week, not just coaching, like that was a portion of what I did, but to keep a roof over my head, it was bartending, it was waiting tables, it was like being a personal assistant, cleaning people's toilets, whatever I needed to do in order to pay my rent, put food on the table and actually continue to grow the business. So I basically developed a habit of working nonstop.
And before Marie TV.
Oh yeah, like getting the business off the ground. I worked side gigs.
Like a fitness coach, you did like dance instructions, you did everything.
I was a Nike Elite dance athlete. I, taught anywhere from like 3 to 7 classes a week at Crunch Fitness. Some of them were choreographed, some of them were basic fitness. I had the coaching clients, I was doing the content, and I was bartending and waiting tables. So I had developed this habit of nonstop work because that was what was necessary at that time.
New York.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rule number 3, try everything.
Everyone asks us from the time that we're like in our kind of mid-teens, and when you start thinking about, what you're going to major in and where you're going to go to college and what you're going to do, it's like, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it's this question that I think is really intimidating. First of all, because when we're young, we might not have that answer yet. And in my case, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do. I remember having such a passion for dance, although I never took any formal dance training until I was like in my mid-20s. I loved dance. I was passionate about fitness and health. I loved spirituality. I loved reading. I loved business. I actually thought at one point I was going to be an animator for Disney. So I think that part of my own challenge and my struggle was that most of the world was telling me that I had to pick one thing. And all this conventional wisdom was like, if you're gonna be a success, you have to narrow down, pick one thing, specialize in it, and be the best at that thing, and maybe in like 10 or 20 years, you're gonna be awesome. And every time I tried to follow that conventional wisdom that told me to pick one thing, I felt like I was cutting off a limb. Even when I, tried to just pick life coaching and I was like, I'm just gonna be a life coach, I felt horrible. I felt terrible when I decided that I was actually gonna give dance, which was hip hop dance and fitness, a go, thinking like, okay, I'm just supposed to do this. Just doing that, I felt terrible thinking I was putting life coaching on the back burner. And it wasn't until I realized that I am a multi-passionate person. I am multifaceted. There are a lot of things that I'm not only interested in, but I'm actually good at. And I need to give myself permission to do everything and just run away from the conventional wisdom. That's actually when I started feeling good about myself. And that's when I actually started getting traction in the world. And when I say traction, I mean started getting better projects, started getting paid more, started actually building skills that now are crucial for my business.
Rule number 4, start small.
And vision is great. Some people have amazing, huge, big, grand visions, and they love it and they step into it and they rise up to that occasion, and that's awesome. Like if that's you and that's how you're built and that's what works for you, rock on. For many people, when they have an enormous vision, it paralyzes them. They have no idea how to accomplish it. I see people cry in workshops all the time. It's so big. I don't know how to do it. I want to change the world. I'm like, don't worry about changing the world. Change one person's life. If we can focus there, stay there for a little bit, we're going to get to that thing. Maybe. Otherwise, it's all good because you're still doing the work that you were born to do.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
When I was bartending, I was fully bartending. Like I wasn't talking to myself about, oh my God, I should be dancing right now, or I should be working on my coaching practice. Because being a really, really good listener is one of the most underrated secrets to success.
Rule number 5, use your customer's language.
As I approached the gate, I knew I needed to get some work done before hopping on that flight. And I was bracing to try and find one of those like long vertical outlet hubs where there's 30 people clustered around trying to plug their stuff in. So to my very pleasant surprise, I found rows and rows and rows of these comfortable, cute little workstations, all with their own outlets, and a huge sign above it that said, "The Juice Bar." I mean, seriously, how many times have you said to yourself, oh crap, I ran out of juice on my phone, or my computer has zero juice, I need to go find a plug. So when JetBlue says juice bar, they are speaking my language. And it's a very smart play on words that lets me know, hey, they get me. And I gotta tell you this, every single customer wants to feel like you as a business owner just get them. Now, another quick example, when I saw the help desk, right? Instead of saying something formal like information desk, the sign said, just ask. So not only is the latter more friendly and inviting, but it implies that my question is welcome and not stupid. So the bottom line is this, using your customer's language is key if you want to create more sales and raving fans. And in the words of this tweetable, your customer's language is the jet fuel to make your business take off.
Rule number 6, be humble.
The most accomplished and respected people in the world stay humble. They're curious, they're open-hearted, they're lifelong learners. Don't ever feel like you have to overcompensate for imposter syndrome by becoming an arrogant asshat know-it-all. Not only do you not have to know it all, but you become extra trustworthy when you say these 3 magic words. I don't know. You know, I consider myself a forever student, and I happily admit when I have no idea what something is or how to do something. But you know what? Everything is figure-outable. So not knowing doesn't make me a fraud, and it doesn't have to make you one either.
Rule number 7, take control of your life.
I was bartending at night, waiting tables, doing assistant work. Like I was basically working 24/7. You know, in the evenings and weekends, it was all, how can I just make money to pay my rent and put food on the table? And in the days, I was really working my buns off, trying to create content, create a newsletter, get coaching clients, actually start working with people. And when I got engaged really young, I was about 23 years old, and the guy was a sweetheart, but I realized pretty quickly I didn't want to marry him. This was not the person I was meant to spend the rest of my life with. But we lived in this tiny one-room studio in the West Village, and our money was already commingled. And so I was terrified because I felt like I made this huge mistake. Here I am trying to become a life coach, and clearly I have a lot to figure out about life. I knew I needed to get out of this relationship, but I didn't know how to untangle what I had created, this big mess. And so I knew once I broke off that engagement, I needed to actually physically leave that environment. That was the only way I was going to get to move on. And so I called my parents in New Jersey and I said, I hate to say this, but I have to move home. I was so upset. I just felt like a total failure. I felt like a horrible person for breaking this guy's heart. And it was a mess. Like, I just felt like such a failure on every single level. The fact that I couldn't support myself yet, the fact that I had to go back to Jersey, the fact that I felt like I, did a number on this guy's life. And it was really humbling. But, at the end of that, it made me realize I'm more committed than ever to figure out what it takes to make my life work, and then also to be able to share those lessons with other people. So hopefully they didn't have to go through the mess that I created. If I could save people a learning curve, that was gonna be awesome. And I think I was home maybe like 2 or 3 months, something like that. Emotionally, I had to heal and just kind of get myself resituated and, find a new living, a place to live in the city and get back on my feet. But it was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it got me regrounded in my own power and made me realize that if everything falls apart, which it sometimes does, there's always a way to get back on your feet.
Rule number 8, take action now.
Indecision is a dream killer. And the opposite, what do we do about that? It's probably one of the things I live my life by most, besides the idea that everything is figure outable, is that clarity comes from, yes.
I cannot wait for that.
Yes, we'll talk about that. That clarity comes from engagement, not thought. So one of the things that got me off my ass, right? When I was thinking about, should I be a dancer? Could I be a dancer? Am I too old to be a dancer? Oh, I think I am. Was just getting into that friggin' dance class. That's what cracked me open to a whole additional career that, by the way, built the skill sets to what I do today. So my little kind of offshoot, my weird dancing thing, got me experience in front of the camera, teaching to big groups, leading, music. All the stuff that we've talked about in this entire interview built this incredible skill set that now fuels the brand that I have today. That's completely unique. That would have been if I just stayed narrow and focused on life coaching. I would have been, that girl with like an awful pink suit and shoulder pads. Terrible.
Rule number 9, don't stress yourself.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned in the last decade for you?
That things, first of all, keep getting better. I think in our society, especially as it relates to, as you get older, at least in my family, there was a lot of kind of cultural expectations like, oh, over this age, it kind of starts going down, or you know what I mean? You peak when you're young, and that's when all the good stuff happens. And for me, I feel like it keeps getting better. And I love that the best years are still ahead of me, and that all the stuff that I've been through, there's like all of these exciting new possibilities. So that's one of the biggest lessons. And I think the other one is that I don't have to stress as hard. Like, as a human being, I have a really strong work ethic, but I also tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. And the other lesson I've learned is that I don't need to do that the work actually gets done more joyfully and more creatively if I don't add on that additional layer of pressure and stress.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is be true to who you are.
I'd love to hear about kind of being a media maker and kind of the thought you put into kind of the message you want to show people.
Yeah, that's actually been a really interesting evolution, because I am naturally a super goofy person. I'm naturally sometimes an inappropriate person. There's things that pop out of my mouth as being a person from Jersey that other people would say, you cannot say that on stage. You should not be talking about that as a professional woman. I'm like, but that's real. And when I have meetings with other people that aren't on camera, that there's no recording device around, that's actually how they talk too. So why are we separating ourselves to be like this very one type of person when we feel like we're out in public, and then in private we act a completely different way? I just think that's so hypocritical. And so for me, I feel like also the way that I best express myself is when I'm not trying to be anything other than who I actually am and how I would talk to my friends. You know, it's been interesting too with Marie TV. It's like, I'm a woman who enjoys clothes, and I'm a woman who enjoys like sometimes it's sassy and sexy clothing, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's very, there's boxy things that I want to wear, and sometimes it's really casual, and sometimes it's a little bit more elegant. But those are all sides of me. And so it's been interesting because sometimes I'll put something on, I'm like, there's a little too much skin. Am I sending the wrong message to young women? But then I also have another voice in my head that says, but you know what? I actually like this dress. And it makes me feel good and I feel confident. So I think it's something that I don't feel like I have perfectly figured out, but it's certainly a conversation that is very relevant. It's very present in my mind. It's very present for our team, because what we want to do is create media that, first of all, the content is really impactful. And second of all, that we're being true to who we are, and for me, being true to who I am. And third of all, giving young women a different and diverse look at what it means to be successful, what it means to be yourself, and that you can show different sides of you and be taken seriously.
Now I have a special bonus tip from Marie on how to reduce overwhelm that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. What do you need to take action on now? Number 2, where do you need to stop stressing yourself out? And number 3, how can you be more true to who you are? And if you made it this far in the video, I wanna celebrate you. Give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
Feeling overstretched is really a modern workplace epidemic. In fact, a recent study by the Families and Workplace Institute showed that more than half of US employees feel overworked and overwhelmed. Now, the good news here is that there is something you can do to make a change. Remember my life mantra, everything is figure-outable, girl. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a few minutes and brainstorm potential solutions to present to your boss. So one solution might be that certain parts of your job are handed off to another team member, or maybe some of the tasks don't even need to be done anymore. Or you might need to make a case for why the company needs to hire more help. You'll want to clean up your list and really get your ideas into a shareable, presentable form. Because bosses, we aren't mind readers, right? You need to show us exactly where your job started, how it's grown, the changes you're proposing to make, and why they matter. So let's assume that your boss is a busy person and you don't just call or walk into her office, right? You email her to set up a time to talk. And if you need a little sample script to get you started, try something like this. Hey, Charisse, as you know, I love my job and the work that we do here. As my role has grown, it's become more challenging to focus my energies on the most important projects. Can we walk through my priorities together to make sure I'm focused on the right things and doing the work that's the highest value to the company? It should take 20 minutes or less. Looking forward to it. Now, of course, you should tweak this language to fit your style and your situation, but the point is to keep it short and upbeat.
If you want to see the top 10 I did on Wayne Dyer, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The way that we become, quote, successful, happy, fulfilled, self-actualized, whatever it might be, is on the basis of what I accomplish.